Anger spilled onto the streets of downtown Minneapolis on Wednesday night after a U.S. immigration officer shot and wounded a Venezuelan man during a traffic stop, deepening tensions over the federal government's expanded immigration crackdown in the city. Crowds gathered outside the Bishop Henry Whipple Federal Building, shouting at vehicles entering the compound as heavily armed officers guarded the gates.
Now is the time to get loud. Now is the time to use the First Amendment so that we can avoid using the Second Amendment, because I've been to war and I don't want to see war again, but I know that this nation was built by a revolution, and if it comes to that, if they continue to rape our constitutional rights, we will defend the Constitution, we will defend the Republic, and we will defend the people.
William Kelly, an activist with the group Remember Your Oath, urged protesters to stay peaceful but defiant, warning that constitutional rights were being eroded as federal forces increased their presence in the city.
It feels like fascism. It feels like Donald Trump's trying to strengthen his grip on this nation, and he's going to use our peaceful demonstrations, our First Amendment protests, as an excuse to send in the troops. But what I have to say to him is we're not scared. We got veterans out here. A lot of us are veterans of fighting this country's wars. We are not afraid. We will continue to stand, and if we must sacrifice our life for this republic, we will do so. And we will continue to do so peacefully, as is our constitutional right.
Kelly accused President Donald Trump of using the unrest as a pretext to send more federal agents into Minneapolis, saying demonstrators were prepared to continue protesting despite the risk.
I can't tell you what the future looks like, but I can tell you that Minneapolis and Minnesota are standing up. As you'll see today, the crowds will continue to grow in solidarity, and people will feed each other and will take care of each other while they're getting shot at with pepper balls, while they're getting tear gas deployed at them. The community will stand strong. So no matter what Donald Trump does, no matter how large of an army he sends in Minneapolis, the people will stand against his tyranny, the people will stand against his fascism.
He said the protests were growing in solidarity, even as law enforcement fired tear gas and pepper balls into crowds late into the night.
They're threatening the Insurrection Act when I felt as though that act would be used to actually safeguard people, as opposed to bring in a fascist regime. That's just a very different thing.
74-year-old Kate Sheely said threats by the administration to invoke the Insurrection Act were alarming, describing the federal response as a distortion of laws meant to protect citizens.
Minneapolis is the most diverse place I've ever lived in, and because of the strong Scandinavian background, it's very collective. And people push each other's cars out of the snow. You don't worry about whose car is in the snow. And we just have that mindset. And so if somebody is threatening my neighbors, I don't like that, and I'm going to get involved. And I don't really care if I even like my neighbor or what ethnic group they're in. It's just, that's not okay. You don't hurt my neighbors.
Sheely said Minneapolis's strong sense of community compelled her to protest, adding that targeting neighbors because of immigration status crossed a moral line.
Well, I think it's inappropriate use of the United States military to bring them in against their own citizens. And from what I understand, happened in D.C. when he had the National Guard there. None of them wanted to be there. It was a waste of time and resources. I don't think the Army appreciates it. I think it's an act of desperation.
Retired public media worker Andy Martin criticized what he called the militarization of immigration enforcement, saying the use of federal forces against civilians was inappropriate and dangerous.
I look at it from both the detainees' point of view, but also from a citizen's point of view, and it's a tragedy. It's horrible what's going on, and it's a shame that that people's constitutional rights are being ignored. And the crimes that are being committed are when ICE takes somebody, particularly a U.S. citizen, and there's no recourse. And then I do hope that common sense prevails and we don't give them what they want, which is some kind of a violent act. So I don't know everything that happened last night. I know that ICE shot the guy in the leg. And I hope we get some justice for Renee Good.
Martin said the shooting of the Venezuelan man and last week's fatal shooting of Renee Good reflected a broader breakdown of constitutional protections, urging authorities to avoid escalating the confrontation.
I think a big part of what's going on is that Minnesota is a blue state, and it's a backlash against that, using the Somali fraud situation as an excuse to get involved. But it's a time to be proud to be Minnesotan.
He added that Minnesota was being singled out politically, but said residents were determined to defend their state's identity and values. Police remained stationed at the federal building as protesters waved flags, held signs, and chanted through the cold night. Placards denouncing ICE and federal authority lined the restricted entrance to the building, now a focal point of public anger. Gas masks hung from fences and handwritten slogans covered the pavement, visual reminders of a city bracing for more demonstrations, as the Trump administration says it plans to deploy hundreds more agents to Minneapolis despite calls from local leaders to stand down.